Healing from a toxic relationship can be super difficult and sometimes feel close to impossible to heal from. And if you've ever tried to heal from a toxic relationship, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So in this video, I'm going to provide you with some practical tools and insight that you probably never heard before that's going to help you in your healing journey from that toxic relationship. I also want to hear in the comments, what do you guys think about toxic relationships and or if you've ever been in toxic relationships? And how did you heal from toxic relationships? So you guys sit back, relax, and we're going to talk about it right now. What's going on, y'all? My name is Terrence, Stewart, licensed therapist, and I'm your men's mental health expert. Now, healing from a toxic relationship is similar to trying to heal from a traumatic event. Toxic relationships can imply a lot of trauma, a lot of emotional damage. Sometimes, if it was an abusive relationship, physical abuse, spiritual abuse, and just all around confusion around how to navigate those things. Now, I will say, if you've just recently got out of a toxic relationship, I first and foremost want to congratulate you for getting out of that situation and making the decision to put yourself first before you put anybody else above your needs. Now, I know you might be in a space right now where it's super difficult and it's super complicated on what to do, how to heal from this toxic relationship, because you probably sometimes may have some guilt around whether if you made the right decision. Sometimes you may have that person may be trying to still reach out to you. And it can just seem like an all-around mess right now. Now, if you're currently in a toxic relationship, there's no shame in that right now. I know it's sometimes tough to make a decision, but also I want you guys to really think about some of these key points I'm gonna bring up in this video. And if it resonates with you, it can help you make a sound decision on whether or not to stay in that relationship or not. Now, the first thing, if you're currently in a toxic relationship, is that you have to recognize the signs of what a toxic relationship looks like. So some of these traits that align with signs of a toxic relationship are emotional manipulation, emotional abuse, gaslighting, somebody who controls you and you don't feel safe in that relationship, a lot of passive aggressive behavior. And all those are signs of what it looks like if you're in a toxic relationship. Now, if you're in a toxic relationship, it is very important that you recognize the signs of a toxic relationship. And sometimes it can be very confusing because you may have grew up in environments where you're reflecting the behavior of other relationships you've seen, whether that's through your parents, your parental figures, maybe friends, uncles, other family members. It's very hard to identify what a toxic relationship is when all you've seen growing up is toxic relationships. It is also helpful for you to seek healing while trying to navigate this toxic relationship and making the decision for yourself whether or not you want to deal with the situation that you're in or you see something better for yourself. And I'll be here to tell you right now, it is not worth staying in toxic relationships. It is not worth all your energy to stay in a toxic relationship. Many times there's fears around being by yourself and there's fears around, oh, well, this is probably the best I can do. You have to have confidence in yourself that the toxic relationship that you're in is not the best that you can do. So recognizing the signs can be helpful in you making a wise decision to leave that toxic relationship. In addition to leaving a toxic relationship, you have to learn how to practice self-care and boundaries. Now, many times, if you're in a toxic relationship, you probably haven't been practicing any form of self-care because you did not feel safe to really prioritize yourself. It was always about the other person. It was always trying to make this other person happy. It was always trying to meet their needs and putting your needs at the back burner and essentially practicing self-neglect. Now, self-care is very important in the healing process from a toxic relationship. And I'm going to break down what self-care looks like because sometimes we may be like, okay, well, going to the salon or getting your nails done or getting a haircut or whatever it may seem as a form of self-care. Now, I don't want to dismiss that this is part of taking care of yourself, but self-care with your maintenance, meaning like your hygiene, your grooming and all those things, those are all things that, again, can be helpful in self-care, but you want to take a little bit step further in your self-care process, especially if you're trying to heal from a toxic relationship. The number one thing you can do in order to practice self-care, especially when you are coming out of a toxic relationship, is to prioritize time to yourself. Now, when you're able to prioritize time to yourself, this is you actually dedicating time and energy towards your healing process. Now, this is going to be non-negotiable time that you have in your schedule, whether that is an hour to 15 minutes a day, to say, hey, this is my time to pour into myself. So this will be time to reflect. This would be time to journal. This would be time to meditate. This would be time to pray and do your devotion. This could be time just really to pour back into yourself. Now, this is going to last you longer than a grooming session of some sort, because when you're able to do these things, you're actually practicing and showing yourself that, hey, I can show up for myself and I can pour into myself because I'm dedicating the time to do so. Now, the other part of this is the boundaries. Now, you have to set boundaries because, as I stated earlier, this person may be trying to reach back out to you. This person may be trying to get back with you, trying to manipulate you to get back into that relationship. But you have to be firm in setting your boundaries. Now, the boundaries are for you to enforce, but not for that person you just got out of that toxic relationship to really respect. When you are able to set boundaries, sometimes that may have to do with like blocking this person from social media or your phone. Many times it's maybe having to, if y'all live together, having to move out, and also not making sure you're in close proximity with this person. But all these things are helpful for you to be able to set boundaries so that you can heal from this toxic relationship. In addition, you want to be able to process your emotions. Be able to give yourself time to feel what you need to feel, whether it's feeling happy, celebrating the leaving of a toxic relationship, if you need to mourn a bit, because when you leave a relationship, sometimes even if it's toxic, you may feel guilty around like missing this person, maybe missing being in a relationship. You need to process those feelings accordingly, because what may happen is if you don't give yourself time to process those emotions, you're going to find yourself carrying the baggage from that relationship into the next relationship. Now, there isn't no time frame per se on like how long you should be processing your emotions until you feel healthy enough to get into another relationship, but you want to give yourself time and give yourself effort to heal from this by being able to process your emotions, validate what you feel what you need to feel, so that you can heal what you need to heal. A quick and easy way to process your emotions is by journaling. Now, journaling can be super effective because journaling gives you an outlet on your internal thoughts and put them to an external object, meaning pen to paper or pencil to paper, so you're able to write out and process what you're feeling. There is some science and research shown that when you're able to journal your emotions, it helps decrease the anxiety, it helps decrease the depression, the hopelessness, because you're now not internally dealing with these things, but you're giving yourself an outlet and you're outwardly expressing how you feel. The next part of this is avoid self-blaming. Do not blame yourself for that relationship not working out. Do not blame yourself for you being part of that toxic relationship. You don't have to take the responsibility of someone else's actions as to why the relationship didn't work, because nobody deserves in any relationship, no matter what the contribution is, to be manipulated, to be physically abused, to be emotionally abused, to be gaslit. Nobody deserves that in any type of relationship. So you have to learn how to be more compassionate with yourself and not participate in blaming yourself for how the relationship turned out. Be accepting of where you're at and being out of that relationship, and being accepting of you need to heal from this relationship. Another thing to consider in this is that you have to seek support and tap into your network. And this is very important because you don't have to go through what you're going through alone. You can tap into your support system so that they can help and guide you through the breakup of this toxic relationship. Now, the caveat with this is your friends and family probably didn't know you was in a toxic relationship. This is going to be the time for you to be vulnerable and be open about what you've been dealing with. And this is going to be with family and friends that you trust. This is going to be with family and friends that you can confide in. This is going to be a family and friends that you feel like can actually help you throughout this process. In this, you're gonna have to challenge your trust issues. You got to challenge feeling embarrassed about being in that relationship. And you're going to really have to challenge your self-perception, because now you're putting yourself out there, but you're not just putting yourself out there just to put yourself out there of like, hey, I was in a toxic relationship, but you're putting yourself out there so that you can receive the help that you deserve. The next thing is, be sure that you learn and grow from this experience. Be sure that this is the last time that you're ever going to be in a toxic relationship. Make sure that the things that you learned, whether it's the red flags, all the emotional abuse that you experience, all the traumas that you experience, you have database now. So if those things do come up in the next relationship, you can identify that this relationship is more than likely going to be a toxic relationship. After leaving a toxic relationship, you do have the opportunity to really reframe what is it that you really want? What is it that you're really looking for in a relationship? What is really important to you? Because possibly the thing in that toxic relationship may have not been as important as you thought it was, because you may have gotten that thing, but once you got that in a relationship, you realize that wasn't the important thing. And for somebody not to be toxic probably was more important than whatever else they provided in that relationship. So give yourself a moment of self-reflection, a time to grow, a time to reevaluate what is it that you're looking for, reevaluate your self-worth in the relationship, and understand what is it that you really value in relationships. Lastly, I would encourage you, if you're coming off of a toxic relationship, is to consider going to therapy for some deeper healing. Now, what therapy can do is help you process not only your emotions, but also understand what are the patterns that come up in relationships. What are the patterns that come up for you when you're looking for a partner or somebody to be in a relationship with? What are the traumas that you experienced in the past that leads you to possibly being a magnet towards people who are toxic? Well, therapy can really help you dig these deep-rooted issues, because at the surface, yeah, the relationship you were just in, it was toxic, but in order for you to not repeat that behavior, you have to understand what the patterns are, right? Because possibly for many of y'all, this may have not been your first toxic relationship. Maybe you've had relationships in the past that were toxic. Maybe you've had partners who were abusive, but every relationship you get into, you find yourself dating the same type of person. And it's important to understand, why is that? Why is it that you continue to get into toxic relationships? Therapy can be a tool to help you uncover why is it that you continue to be in toxic relationships, and how to avoid you being in toxic relationships moving further. My hopes is that this video is helpful for those who are in toxic relationships and those who have just gotten out of toxic relationships. Make sure you guys share this video. Maybe there's possibly somebody that you know that's in a toxic relationship, or somebody who's just gotten out of a toxic relationship. Be sure to share this video with them. And I want to encourage you to have a dialogue with the person that you're sharing this video with around toxic relationships. I appreciate y'all for tapping in. My name is Terrence Stewart. Y'all take care. Peace.